Brain Bridge episode title, Trail and Trial, Neural Maps of the Known Unknown. Season 3, Episode 4, length approx 15 minutes. Intro music, whispering pines, low footsteps on soil and needles, faint church bells in the wind. Welcome back to Brain Bridge, where we explore the mysterious links between biology, memory, and meaning. I'm your host, and today we'll walk two very different but surprisingly similar paths, one through the piney ridges of Ludington State Park, and the other through the interior terrain of suffering, guided by Catholic theological concepts. At first glance, these seem unrelated. One is physical, the other metaphysical. But today, we'll show how the brain uses many of the same neural systems for both. These are acts of navigation, one through space, one through meaning. And in both, we rely not on external cues, but deep memory, emotional regulation, and internalized maps. Let's step into the woods. Segment 1, the forest path and the hippocampal compass. You enter the trailhead at Ludington's Piney Ridge. No map, no GPS, just your body and a memory. Your hippocampus, a structure central to spatial memory, becomes active almost immediately. It begins coordinating with the entorhinal cortex, which encodes the relationships between landmarks. Specific cells, place cells, and head direction cells fire in distinctive patterns, like a neural compass. These patterns were shaped and reinforced during past walks. When you re-enter the trail, they're recalled, though not perfectly. Your brain reconstructs the path using probabilistic inference, shaped by memory and prediction. You don't consciously recall each twist and turn. Instead, your posterior parietal cortex and retrosplenial cortex integrate multisensory information, visual cues, vestibular signals, and proprioception to orient you. You walk forward confident, even when visibility is low. This is more than memory. It's active navigation, modeling, forecasting, and error correction based on what's stored in your internal map. Segment 2, the interior path and conceptual navigation. Now shift to another kind of navigation. You've suffered a loss, something that breaks the familiar rhythm of life. There's no visible trail to follow. But if you've been formed in Catholic theological tradition, something stirs. Concepts like redemptive suffering, uniting one's pain to Christ, offering suffering for others, these become waypoints. They don't remove the suffering, but they give it orientation. Neurobiologically, something profound is happening. The medial prefrontal cortex, MPFC, becomes engaged, helping you organize the suffering in light of prior beliefs. The anterior cingulate cortex, CC, works to regulate distress, while the insular processes internal emotional states, sensing the body's pain as part of the experience. And crucially, the G-default mode network, DMN, often associated with narrative construction and identity, becomes highly active. You aren't just enduring the pain, you're recontextualizing it. The same network used to recall the self in time and simulate future events is now building a meaningful narrative around suffering. This is internal wayfinding. The theological landscape acts like a mental map, not spatial, but conceptual. The brain uses similar tools for both. Segment 3, converging neural pathways. So where do these paths converge? Both forest trail navigation and theological suffering use the hippocampus, but in slightly different modes. In Ludington's woods, it's engaged in episodic spatial memory. In theological reflection, it participates in autobiographical memory, the story of your life seen now in the light of suffering. Both use the MPFC, though differently. In trail walking, the MPFC plays a role in goal-directed action and resolving ambiguity in landmarks. In suffering, it takes on a more abstract role, aligning one's current pain with deep convictions and prior meaning frameworks. Both experiences heavily recruit the default mode network, especially in solitude. The sense of self, place, and narrative continuity arise from it. Whether you're choosing the next trail fork or reinterpreting a painful event through the crucifixion, you are bridging the present moment with remembered structure. And in both cases, the dopaminergic system modulates motivation. In the woods, reaching a scenic overlook or finding a familiar marker may trigger reward circuits. In the life of suffering, small acts of surrender or moments of grace, perhaps during prayer, can produce similar reinforcement, shaping future behavior. This reveals something astonishing. Your brain is not just a passive receiver of suffering or a walker of trails. It is a builder of maps, conceptual, spatial, emotional. Segment, where the paths diverge. But let's not collapse the distinctions. In forest navigation, the dorsal stream of visual processing, sometimes called the where pathway, is dominant. You're tracking movement, landmarks, and motion in space. It's largely sensory-motor and externally anchored. By contrast, theological navigation relies more on the ventral stream and symbolic association, linking abstract concepts, often without direct sensory input. It's internal, reflective, and narrative-driven. Another key difference lies in neuroplasticity timing. Forest navigation tends to rely on well-consolidated memories, the ridge you've walked a dozen times. But suffering often initiates new conceptual learning under distress, which engages emotional salience networks like the amygdala, often in tension with cognitive control systems. The navigation here is messier, but potentially more transformative. Finally, walking a physical trail often induces theta wave entrainment in the hippocampus, deeply linked to movement and spatial memory. By contrast, theological reflection, especially in contemplative states, is associated with alpha and gamma rhythms, indicating deep reflection and integration of disparate neural domains. Segment 5. The integrated. What does this tell us? That your brain was built not just to survive, but to orient, in forests, in relationships, in pain. The same systems that let you find your way home through a piney ridge also help you find meaning in suffering. You draw on internal maps shaped by experience, reinforced by ritual, and modified by each encounter. Catholic theology doesn't just offer abstract ideas, it provides cognitive scaffolding that the brain can inhabit during hardship. It is a kind of spiritual cartography, and when you walk it over and over again through prayer, mass, lectio divina, it becomes second nature, like a well-worn trail. Neurobiology shows us this is not superstition. It is deeply embodied. The Church Fathers intuited what neuroscience now confirms. We become what we practice navigating. Outro music, wind in trees, church bells layered with breath and heartbeat. When the map disappears, whether under fallen leaves or the fog of suffering, we fall back on what we've internalized. The trails we've walked, the prayers we've said, the stories we've told ourselves and believed. Whether under the canopy of Ludington's pines or in the dark night of the soul, the brain is always trying to find its way. May the paths you walk today, literal and spiritual, be ones you'll know how to return to when the night comes. This is Brainbridge. Walk gently.